Hello, everyone. This is Stacy. Welcome to the landing. Hello, welcome back to the landing. I am looking across at a young man that has a whole lot to share with us on today's topic, and I'm going to throw it right over to him and let him introduce himself. Tell us who you are and where are you from?
I am Wayne Davis, Harkers Island. I'm from Harkers Island, and we're going to be talking about a little bit today how the guild got started. And first of all, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about when I was growing up.
That's right. We're going to get started today talking about some decoys and decoy carving and hunting and all kinds of fun stuff. That was a huge part of my dad's life. And yep, this is the Wayne Davis. He has returned, and I can't wait to hear what he has to say. So Daddy, I'm going to throw it right back to you, and you take us on this journey.
First of all, when I was younger, I've always loved guns. I always had cowboy pistols. I always played like I was a cowboy, and I've always had a BB gun. I still got one. And I've just always loved guns, and I've loved ducks and outside. And I used to hunt a lot when I was younger, and I remember the first time I ever went hunting with my father. Him and some of his friends took me and their kids to Mesquite on a goose trip, and we went there. And I had the first gun I ever had was a single barrel Stevens 12 gauge, and that's what I took with me. And when we would go there hunting, we would get into cornfields, and they would have ditches where the blinds were, and you get in them ditches, and the geese would come over. And I remember they come over, and I shot one and killed it. But one of the boys with me said that he killed it. And so we had a little argument back and forth about it. I knew I killed it. He knew he killed it. And another guy that was with us, he said, "But you two shut up. Both of you killed one." So that was my first time I ever killed a goose. We got that straightened out. Anyway, I was just raised up. I always loved ducks and geese. I've raised them just about all my life. I've raised ducks and birds, all kind of dove and quail and pheasants and different kind of ducks. I had a duck pond just about everywhere I ever lived. And I remember one time I was raised Canadian geese, and they were setting. I had 4 or 5 pounds that was setting, and I had a bucket, a peg bucket that I would take the feed around and dump it around the pond. And I had gone to the end where a goose was a setting, and I had just dumped out all my corn, so I got me a bucket of water. And this goose, the gander, saw me and headed at me. Said, "I'll fix you, keep on coming." And when he got close to me, I throwed that water and I throwed it in my own face. And the goose is still laughing at me, but he didn't hurt me. But I've done some crazy things. But I used to hunt a lot of different. We would hunt over Core Banks most of the time. I had 2 or 3 friends that we hunted with. Done a lot of duck hunting and goose hunting. And I was something I would just love to do, enjoy doing. The worse the weather, the colder the weather, the better it was. We always never get it, thought it was too pretty. But anyway, it was a lot better hunting back there them days than there are now. And you could go just about anywhere you wanted to and hunt because it wasn't that many of us hunting at that time. And I remember one time we was over there and trying to get back home. It was a storm come up, and we wound up to Browns Island, finally got home. And another time we broke down and had to shove home from a hammock, throwing an anchor, pulling our way in. So it was rough sometimes.
Oh my, you pulled throw an anchor and then
Yeah, we
pull
was
it? And
all the way to the hammock woods, and we had to throw anchor and pull us a little ways, and we done that all day until we got to East Bay, and then a boat come by and towed us the rest of the way.
oh my
So
goodness.
it wasn't all fun. It was a lot of work involved in it, but we enjoyed it.
Wow. You enjoyed it. What was your favorite kind of hunting to do?
My favorite hunting was I always loved if we shot a black duck. If you kill one black duck, you feel like you had a good hunt. They were the hardest ducks to kill. They were more skittish than any of the other ones. And we shot a lot of redheads and bluebills, blackheads, and we shoot anything we could anything we could shoot pretty much. If anything come to us, if it was legal. Now, if it wasn't legal, we would try to hold back on it a lot. But
Well said. Well
yeah.
said.
I just enjoyed all kinds of hunting, but I love the marsh hunting better than I did the blind hunting.
Why? Why'd you like that better?
It was in the blind hunting. It was more of sea ducks or redheads, blackheads, that kind of ducks. But in the marsh, it was more pintail, black ducks, and more that kind of a ducks. And we just loved to shoot them better than we did the divers.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that makes sense. All right. Well, take us on. Anybody that knows Wayne Davis knows you're synonymous with decoy. So when did you start appreciating decoys?
Well, when I remember the first time I ever carved one, I had gone to Atlantic to Clayton Poulter's Fish House. I was there on the dock, and I saw some Canadian geese on the dock that was made out of canvas. And I found an old piece of paper and made me a pattern of one of them. And I come back, and when I got back home, I made 3 of them when I was 15 years old. And that was the first thing that I ever made, and I still got one. I hunted with them for a few years, but that was the first one I ever made.
Wow, at age 15.
15.
Wow. Oh my goodness. So you saw it and you're like, I can do that.
I thought I could. I don't know how good it was in the beginning, but I'm still not much better anymore.
Well, I have seen that particular goose and it's really good. How did that develop into more?
I just started, and I enjoyed carving them, so I just started carving, and it got more and more. And then in the beginning, I just made a lot of little ones too. When I went into Coast Guard, I even made ducks there. I kept them in my pocket. They were little, about 1 inch long, and I would always have a little duck in my pocket that I could carve.
Would you like whittling it?
Yeah, a little bit of it. And so I raised, everywhere I've been, I've tried to carve a little bit or do a little bit.
Huh. I didn't know that about you, Dad, about the pocket carving. Huh.
Yeah, the little
Yeah.
fancy ducks and stuff.
Yeah.
But I've been carving a long time. The shows and stuff. You want to get into that now?
Yeah, because I remember as a little girl watching you carve. And I remember you doing some canvas ducks, but most of them were, all wood. And I don't know, you always just made it look so easy, and it was fun to watch you to do. And I remember where you want to go now with talking, I remember you getting ready for these trips that you're about to tell about, and I always thought it was so neat. So if you will, tell us a little bit about that, going to the shows.
Okay. But first of all, before I do that, I got something here that a decoy told me to read.
A decoy told him to read this,
A decoy told me
folks.
to read this, so I'm going to read this to you, and then I'll talk about the other.
Okay. No,
Okay,
this
here
is
we
perfect.
go. Hey, Mr. Hunter, have you ever stopped to think about what you do to me during our relationship? Well, I have, and I am here to let you in on what I have remembered. Here it goes. The first thing you do is to take a chainsaw, just missing my head and tail. Then you take me to a bandsaw and see how close you can come to my whole body. Then there comes the hatchet and grinder. Oh me, I hope you realize that if you take a little too much off, you're going to change me from a drake to a hen. Now, if that does not bad enough, you take sandpaper and scrape me all over. Then you drill a hole through my head and push my eyes in, most of the time leaving me cockeyed. You continue by taking a knife and cutting little feathers all over me. You are certain to make them babies permanent too, because you take your trusting wood burner and tattoo me from bill to butt. Then you bathe me bad in paint, thinking that will make it all right. Well, I got news for you. The trouble is just beginning. Why? Because you then drive a nail in my belly and tie it to a string with a weight on one end. Next, you take me out in the coldest weather you can get me and throw me overboard. You don't even leave me alone to freeze to death. Instead, you start shooting over the top of my head, sometimes even hitting me. You make a traitor out of me by trying to get me to lure in my own kind, but that doesn't stop you. Nope, it sure doesn't. When you are finished with me, you stick me down, head down in a sack. When we get home, you hang me up in the side of the house and make me stay there for a whole year. Whether not realizing it or not, you do this year after year until you are tired of having me around. Then you show me your appreciation by giving me away at an auction. Well, now, even though from this point on, I might be only a dust collector or burnt on somebody's mantle, at least I can rest.
No, that's awesome. Now, Daddy, when did you write that?
I don't know. I read that one time, and that duck tapped me on the shoulder and told me to do it. I don't reckon many people wrote about that stuff, but I don't know. I'm kind of weird anyway.
You're not weird. You're just extremely insightful. That's how I look at it. No, that was perfect. And that, I mean, did explain there's many processes that go into decoy carving. Maybe now carvers will think about their piece of wood a little differently.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Now take us on.
Well, me and David Lawrence were real good friends, and we would get together. Sometime I go to his shop or he'd go to mine. We never did hunt together. Many other people I went with, and we never did hunt together. But we would love to go to shows together, and we would always go things like staying a weekend, and we go to the different places. We go to Maryland, Virginia, and all the different shows all around.
And these are decoy shows.
All decoy shows. All the shows were decoy shows. And we got to meet a lot of people when we go to these shows, and especially Chincoteague, Virginia. We had a lot of friends in Chincoteague, Virginia, and their show was sponsored by the fire department, and they had it at the school. And we would go there, and me and him, we would enter some of our ducks sometimes in the competition, and we enjoyed doing that. That's during the competition I was in, really. But we would meet different people that we really liked, and it was this one guy. I had a canvasback in the show, and in the tank that year, and he beat me. It was 20 in there. And I came in second. He came in first. And I told him that he was never going to beat me anymore. So from there on, I would never enter anything in the same competition he did.
So he never beat
So
you.
he never beat me. He never beat me again. Yeah, but he was fun. He was a real good fella. And but we just met a lot of the locals, and they would talk to us and tell us about that. They would, like, once a month, a group of them would meet together and get together and just carve and bull, just out of enjoyment time doing it. And we would always talk about doing that.
You and David.
Me and David, and we never did do it. And one of the things, though, in Chincoteague, though, we really enjoyed was Cigar Daisy. Mm-hmm. We would always go and visit him, and he would tell us about the different times that he would. He was a character. He was he trapped ducks a long time and never got caught. And the game warden, they trapped ducks and would get them to band them. And he knew where their traps was, so he would go to their traps and take half their ducks out. And but how he got his name Cigar, he smoked a certain kind of cigar, and he dropped one, and the game warden found it where the traps. They knew who he was, but they could never prove it. But he always got the name of Cigar. But everybody thought the world was Cigar.
Oh, my
I remember Sundays we never go to his shop because it was always 7 or 8 cars around there, and the old crowd would always say he was having Sunday school in, so we didn't go there and mess him up. But he was fun to be around. But we just enjoyed going out there. Me and David loved the same things. We would go down some old road or something just to, I remember one time we went down a road and went to the end of it, and it was a carver down there, Hurricane Pete. And you never know what you're going to find down the road. But we enjoyed the same things and just had a good time.
Right. So you and him developed this dream of this idea of, well, why can't we do this?
Every time just about that we would go to a show and we come back, we would talk about doing the same thing they did to Chincoteague, is to have a get together like once a month or something and just sit around and carve. And we get home, and that would be the end of it. We never would do it, and done that for 3 or 4 years until one show we come home and I got thinking about it. I said, I'm gonna do that, and it took me about 3 different times. If we had 6 other carvers on the island, and it took me about 3 or 4 times to get them all together to meet to my house, and they met to my house on my birthday. And my wife Lana, she cooked some clam chowder and banana pudding, and we had a good time that night. They act like they enjoyed it. And we started, that's where the beginning of it started. We started the Corsound Decoy Carvers Guild. And we was going to meet once a month. And I don't know why we called it the guild, because everybody else called it shows up there, but I don't know where that come from. I didn't know what guild was, to tell you the truth.
Right.
Unless it's something in a fish, a guild.
That's a different kind.
A
Different kind.
But anyway, we started the guild, and we once a month we would meet. We meet at my house, or we meet the Davids, or some of the other. We'd meet the Carl Huss, or different houses we would meet each month.
Let me interrupt you here and tell us, who were those founding members? Who were at your birthday party that year?
That was Carl Huff, James Salter, Norman Hancock, Jeffrey, Kurt Salter, and Gregory Lupton, and myself. Is that 7?
And David.
And David.
Yep.
Yeah. And we just started meeting. We didn't really have nowhere to meet in the beginning, so we do it at different people's houses until finally we talked to the principal, Mr. Blair, and he would let us go to the school. We would meet in the library at the school, and it grew so much. And in 2 months, 60 days, we had about 50 or 60 members of the guild.
Wow.
And we hadn't and enjoy ourselves, have a good time. And then other people kept saying, I want to do it, I want to do it. And it just took off like crazy. Had no idea there was that many people that was involved in it.
Wow. So you did this for a few months, and enrollment is increasing, and so then you start looking at things you could do.
After 2 months, about 2 months, we had 50 or 60 carvers. Members. That was not all carvers. That was collectors. Anybody that enjoyed that type thing. And then somebody come up with a brainstorm, and let's do a show. And we didn't have sense enough. We didn't know how a show started. We never. It's different going to a show and having a show. I learned that the hard way. And so we talked about doing it. And so the first thing we had to do was check with the rest of the members and see if they wanted to do it at one of our meetings. And then they said, let's go for it. Okay, when we want to do it. So we started in 87, August 11th in 87, the Guild. And we had a show planned for 88.
Wow.
Which was not much time to do what had to be done. And but we had the first thing we had to do, find out where we were going to have it, or get a sponsor like Chincoteague did. They had the fire department. And I went over and talked with him some, but it never did come to pass. So I said, I'm going to go and talk to the school and the principal and find out what we could do. So I go down in his office and sat down and tell him, I said, Mr. Blair, I got something to go over with you. He said, yes, sir. What do you got there, Wayne? I said, I want your school for one weekend, and I want you to try to get out of my way. He said, what are you going to do? I said, we're going to have a decoy show. And I said, what we want the school to be able to have the food, do the food, and you can have all the money out the food, and that can be a big thing if you get it going. And we give you part of the gate. And just give us the keys and get out of our way. And when we leave our Sunday night, it'll be ready for school the next morning, Monday morning. He said, Wayne, let me tell you something. He said, I don't know much about ducks. He said, but I know if you say what you're going to do, you're going to do. And I trust you enough, I'm going to do it.
Wow.
And that shows you how foolish he was.
We love you, Mr. Blair. And it proved to be a very good relationship.
It did. It did. But there again, like I said in the beginning, starting a show is just say, I'm not going to start a show. First thing you got to do, you got to figure out if you can do it and get it put together. And when you're going to have it.
And how did you pick that weekend? Because it's the first full weekend of
In
December.
December. Well, we went down to all the other shows that we could think of, and there was always something involved going on with another show. And we come up with that weekend because it was nothing going on that weekend for our decoys. And it was the best thing we ever done.
Yes.
Every carver that comes to our show tell us it is the best selling show that they go to, and it's because it's Christmas
Yep, the holiday
holidays and
Yep.
people buying presents and stuff. So that was a good thing that we did there.
Yeah.
And then after we did that, we had to start figuring out what we are going to do, about the show. I mean, you don't just go there and say we're going to have a show.
And you're talking in 88. So you don't have Facebook and to get the word out. You don't have computers to just look up someone, text and call it. So how were your records kept? How did you contact these carvers?
Everything was telephone or by mail.
Wow.
And I knew a lot of the carvers and stuff over the years, and I got some of their address, and I would call them and ask them if they'd be interested.
So once carvers that you had met at other shows and stuff.
Yes. And then a lot of the people that was around home, we put the word out we was going to do a show, and we started signing them up,
Right.
until we wound up with enough carvers to fill the gym. I mean, we had a full gym. We just had a show in the gym that year. Only thing we used was the gym, the lunchroom, and the library.
Do you remember approximately how many carvers you had? Because the gym's
I'm
pretty
guessing we had probably 40,
Wow.
50. Right now we have probably 80, 90. That's all the room we got. But we had the gym full.
big. Wow. Yeah.
So, yeah.
I remember folding up shirts and stuff many times helping you.
Well, see, when you start a show, I found out that you got to have a place you're gonna have it. So okay, we had a place. Now we got to have tables. You got to have chairs. You got to have posters. You got to have ribbons. You got to have everything. I mean, everything that goes along with the show. You got to have security. You got to have all the volunteers you can even dream about getting. The shirt, selling the shirt, buying the shirt, ordering the shirt,
Folding the shirt.
folding the shirt, ordering the ribbons.
Yep.
Kind of figure out how many ribbons. Because we had a float tank competition even that first year, and we had to do all of that, and we didn't have no time to do it because that was only like a year after we started the guild.
Yeah.
And we would borrow chairs and tables and stuff from places on the beach. And some of the churches and stuff, we would get enough and go around and get them until we got it all straightened up. And that first year we had that one there, I don't know, we was really worried. I was really worried. And I am not a very good delegator, so I thought I had to be in charge of everything. And it's a wonder they hadn't sent me off because I almost committed suicide 2 or 3 times. But anyway, we pulled it off, and everybody. When we opened the gate that morning, I mean, it was surprising. We had that place filled up.
Yeah, in no time.
In no time, we had that gym filled up, and the people were down there eating just as hard as they could eat, and competition was going on in the gym. And we also, even that same year, we had an auction, and that was something we added to it, And
right.
we had the auction in the lunchroom, and after the show was over, we had to go over there and move everything and set up the auction on stage, and then all the prizes and stuff for the objects we had for the auction was the members that was selling their stuff. All of them donated something.
Oh, okay.
And we made around $3,000 that first year just for that auction, not even knowing what we were doing.
Not knowing what you're doing.
Yeah, and that was one of the best shows I think we had, really, but it was the hardest show. And the advertising, all the advertising we have is posters. And talking about posters, everybody collects posters. It's hard to find that number one, I'll tell you right now. We only had 250 made, and I put over half of them out all over the county in the different stores. That was our advertisement.
Wow.
So it's not many of them out there to try to get now. But we had a lot of help, too, from Skip Waters, TV. He would had his show... when he would do the weather, he would always talk about our show to make sure he'd come. And he would come to our show and do the weather report from our show.
I remember that.
Yeah. So we really, everything went really well.
Yeah.
And now it's coming up, now our 35th year, I think it's 36 year.
36, I think,
36 years coming up, and it's more people than ever.
Yeah. Oh, it's so much fun. This time of year I start getting excited about it because of course me and my family, we still help, and of course all your youngins, and it's just a good family weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's really good, and we still trying to get ready ourselves. The ones that carved, we was all in the show, and we had to try to get stuff made up during the year, and that was kind of difficulty trying to get stuff, to sell in the festival and stuff. So it was a lot going on, but we still had our meetings, and a lot of it was the show meetings, but we still get together and have a good time to the meetings and stuff. And then by the end of the year, we had over 100 members of the museum and of the guild, and it really worked well. We didn't have a whole lot when we go to the meetings. A lot of times, I was in charge. I was the president, and I would say, "Okay, anybody got anything to say or anything?" And nobody said nothing. So I got to one point there, I would write a poem or something and read it, and the crowd in there. But I could miss a meeting, and then they would say, "Where's your poem at?" And I would say, "Somebody else is going to have to write one. I can't write no more."
Well, that leads us, because it's about our time's about up, but that leads us right where I want you to be. And you have a poem.
Yes.
Another
Now, this one is
few
a
words.
poem.
Yeah, this one's a poem that you have written, and it's perfect to end on.
It's about the guild, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, the beginning of the Corsign Decoy Carvers Guild. A group of carvers got together to try to create a wooden feather with a knife and hatchet to see if they could make a real bird out of a piece of wood. A real bird they couldn't make, but an old decoy they did create. And when them old carvers are going on their way, that old decoy will be here to stay. And if later someone looking at that old piece of wood would say, "I know who carved that, he was pretty good," then it would be all worth those lonely days, although knowing we're gone, part of us stays.
I love that. And you wrote that.
Yes,
Does it have what year on it?
I wrote that, I don't know,
Y'all,
20-something years ago.
Yeah, I don't see the date on it right now, but it's a long time ago. In closing, just one little tidbit about Wayne. He loves to write poetry and loves to write. And there's nothing to find poems written on paper, but nothing surprising to find poems written on scraps of wood or the back of a receipt or a napkin or a bag. I mean, I have collected them through the years, and I've got a folder, and he's got a folder, and we really need to do something with those poems, Daddy. So that's another project for us.
Well, they got a trash dump across the bridge.
No. Well,
and a fire department up there.
Fire department. No. Thank you, Daddy, again for coming, and this time, sharing a little bit about you and your interests and your love for decoys and carving. Are there any parting words before we say goodbye?
I got to say one thing about David.
Okay.
David was one of my best friends. And when he would do a painting, he would always call me up and say, "I want you to come up here. I just finished a painting." So I go up there one night, he calls me. I go up there and I look at it. I say, "David, that gun's wrong. She looks like she's hanging in the air." He said, "What?" He said, "Carol, come in here." He said, "Carol, does that gun look wrong over there?" She said, "Daddy." She said, "Yeah, it's going to fall." So he worked all night. He called me next day. He told me, he said, "I'll never invite you up here to see another painting that I did." But David was a good friend. Good thing, full of a lot of David.
Oh, we still do love David.
Yeah.
And Carol and their crowd.
Yeah.
All right, Daddy. Well, I love you very much.
Yeah, I love you too.
And
I would love you more though, you know that.
No, sir. And until next time.
Next time?
Who knows? Who knows?
I'm not starting another show. I'll tell you.
Thank you, Daddy.
You're welcome, darling.
Oh, how I love talking with my dad. I learn something new every conversation. I hope you have enjoyed our month together exploring the traditions of hunting and decoy carving in our area. We are blessed. Please join us next week when we begin our discussions going down memory lane, remembering how Christmases used to be. We will start it off with none other than Miss June Marie Hancock Davis. Until then, stay safe and be kind. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. We are grateful for you.